As a small biz pro, I saw we roll, using procurement, program and control. As a small biz pro, I saw we grow, using procurement, program and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Business Zone with
Crystal
and Gilbert Buchanan, your small business paramedic. Today is September 4th, Crystal, and I think it's the beginning of Labor Day, right?
It's the beginning of Labor Day, and we're going to start off. You know what we're starting off with, right?
We're starting off with those clocks. 60 days to go. Oh, 59 days now. 59 days to go to voting.
We are at 59 days, 16 hours, 23 minutes, and 44 seconds until November 3rd, 2020 election.
And guys, do not forget to do this. You know, there's an app out there, Crystal. I think I got to see if we can find it online. There's an app where you can scan and use your phone to register. If you haven't registered to vote yet, you can go ahead and do that, and it will get you registered, and you'll be ready to go.
I think that's absolutely fantastic, and we need to make sure we are alerting everyone to the fact that they need to go register to vote. There are a number of entities out there that are helping people to do that. You need to verify. If you think you're registered, you need to verify that you are registered, because all kinds of shenanigans are going on, Gilbert.
Oh, yeah. All kinds of crazy stuff, man. We can't afford to have, because they're telling people, hey, you don't need to register. You know, we already have your information, so don't register. So thinking that people are foolish enough to believe that, you know, or now the new thing is that, you know, that the president dude is saying, oh, you can vote twice. Go ahead and vote twice to test the system. That's a crime. That's a federal crime if you voted twice.
Better yet, not the president dude, but the attorney general told us today that he didn't know that you can't vote twice.
Man, I'm telling you, man, those people, they know. If he's a chief law enforcement officer, he knows that.
All I know is if you were working for a company at this point and all of this was going on, that individual would have been fired a long time ago.
Oh yeah,
just
definitely
fired, kicked out the door. The security guards would have been helping you with your box to escort you out to the front door. I don't even understand.
They'll be saying, don't take anything else from this office. We'll take your box out for you. Know, just come with us. Come with us to the door.
Right. And 3 or 4 of the big dudes would be standing there looking at you going, what are you taking? No, you can't have that.
You can't have that. Not even your nameplate. You can't take the nameplate. You know, we'll put it in the box for you.
So obviously government employment is a whole lot different than corporate employment.
A whole lot different. And we found out yesterday that the postmaster general, the one who they put in there to cut production and stop the sorting machines and all of that.
Right.
We just found out that the dude is involved in a lot of scam and fraud. Like
yes.
he worked for a company before this that was contracted with the post office. So now his company is contracted with the post office. So he's kicking money back to them.
Yes.
Over $287 million in contracts he's kicking to them. Can you believe that?
Well, that's why I mean, they've been wanting to privatize the post office for a long time, which, you know, obviously it can't be privatized,
right.
But they're trying to figure out a way. And at this point, I think this is like the thieves are left in the den.
Yeah.
it's time to make a run. So grab
Mm-hmm.
everything you can get, make
Yeah.
everything happen the way you need to make it happen. Because once they kick us out, we can't come back. So let's make
Yeah.
sure and let's destroy while we're going along. Let's just knock over some desks and some other things. So
Yeah.
that's gonna take them a minute
But
to get it together.
but they're sadly mistaken though, because even after they lose in November, they're gonna be arrested because Congress.
Well, we hope.
It's Congress' responsibility to investigate these guys. You know.
Yeah, we need to be yeah, we need to be a positive effort in making sure that that's happening. But I do know that's probably the man in the White House. That's his biggest fear, and his son's biggest fear
Yeah.
is that they're going to go to jail
Oh yeah, they will.
immediately
They will.
after.
They may
Yeah,
they see once November 3rd and January 20th come around, I mean they have no more power to do anything to influence the judges and the courts. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But what I want to do, Crystal, I want us to talk to the people, because since we got 60 days, 59 days left, we need them to understand what they need to vote for and why they're voting for it. So we want to talk again about the Proposition 16 and Proposition 20 that you and I talked about last week. I think we should keep talking about this every week until people understand it.
I absolutely agree. And there's something that took place today. SB, let me see if I can get to it. It popped in, and that we need to be urging Governor Newsom to veto is SB 145, is the pedophile rights bill
Bill of
rights, I think.
Rights to do
Yeah,
what?
and the purpose of it is this bill it would exempt convicted child molesters from having to register as sex offenders. So and law enforcement is that would normally deal with sexual criminal files of victims. So we need to really write to our governor and make sure that he vetoes this bill. So it's really giving them a whole carte blanche
Immunity.
immunity to do what they want. And interesting enough, and this just amazes me how these things happen. The San Francisco, remember Scott Wiener?
Yeah.
He's the one that is written this bill.
I was just gonna ask you. I was just gonna say this must be someone who's a pedophile who is trying to make sure that his reputation is not tarnished anymore. Because come on, I mean, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
I just don't. I gotta tell you, when you look at the news, you're just flabbergasted. That's the new word, flabbergasted, that these things are going on today. Our children have to be protected. Black men and women have to be protected. It's just insane. It's just so much. I think I mentioned last week, or I mentioned to someone, it's like the doors of hell opened up, or a little hole opened up in the doors of hell, and everybody slid out.
Yeah. all the vermins, all the vermin.
Came running to the surface.
So here's my pledge to this. So yes, so they want the pedophiles, they want them to have some rights and immunity. Okay, let's give them immunity. The only way they'll get immunity if black people stop being systemized, and if systemized racism doesn't occur anymore for black people, then those idiots can get their immunity. Okay, that's my thing. That's what I'm voting for, because I know systematic racism is not going to go away. It will never go away. It's a part of the fabric of this society. That's what it was founded on. It's not going to go anywhere. It's a money maker for them. So if they can stop systemized racism and give us our due, then sure, let's give those pedophiles their due as well.
Can I throw in reparations?
and some reparation. So systematic racism being eradicated, and we get our reparations, then the pedophiles will get their immunity.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about the bill, which is being called the affirmative action, but really is about certify a supply of diversity and
That's
minorities.
Proposition 16, right?
16. It's so important that we recognize, and Gilbert, you've been in this space for a very, very long time. So let's talk about that a little bit from your standpoint on why this is so important for businesses to be able to, small businesses have the ability to do business with larger organizations and
So
corporations.
let's talk about that, Crystal. So many small businesses understand that the prime contractors and the prime businesses, who are the bigger businesses who get awarded contracts directly from government entities, and under certain programs, disadvantaged business programs or small business or minority programs, they are supposed to, in fact, award subcontracts to small businesses, small minority and women-owned businesses. But because those prime contractors wanted to do what they want, they wanted to award contracts to their friends who are not minority or women-owned businesses. They've been the ones fighting the proposition. They're the one who came up with a Proposition 209 to fight the affirmative action. So because we now know that the economy is lopsided, because when minority and women owned businesses are not given opportunities, then it throws off the balance of the economy. They don't have money, they're not making money, so now they have to apply for certain funding or grants or support services from the government. So they figure more or less, okay, if we're going to have to keep pumping out this money, then our budget is going to be at an imbalance. So those are how that comes into play. When minority and women-owned businesses are not given opportunities, that's not a good thing for the economy. The economy needs to thrive, and in order for them to thrive, minority and women-owned businesses need that opportunity. So we've seen this in contracts a lot, where the bigger primes, they abuse these types of privileges. So what they do is they will outreach to minority firms, get the minority firms on their list, submit it with their proposal. Then when they get awarded the contract, they substitute out those minority and women-owned businesses and bring in their friends who are non-minorities. And that's what they've been doing with the system. And that's why they brought in 209, thinking that, that's their way to bypass the process. So with Proposition 16, Proposition 16 is saying, no, that's not what we're going to do, because you've been having your ride with Proposition 209 since 1994, because you overthrew the Affirmative Action Act. So now we're seeing where it's imbalancing the economy. So now we want to make sure that minority businesses start getting opportunities again, so the economy can thrive. And that's what Proposition 16 is about, to make sure it's an even playing field so minority and women-owned businesses can get government contracts, and they're protected from being unlawfully replaced by prime contractors. So that's what this is.
Okay, so very, very important for our small businesses, even those that haven't quite gotten to a place where they're ready to be certified business owners, but you wanted to be there when you are ready, right?
Yes.
And we have to make sure from the economic, especially for minorities and Black people and women, being able to have an opportunity to grow your business where you're not doing transactional business. We talk about that all the time. You want to be able to have contracts that that you, at least for a time frame, you guaranteed to have a certain amount of revenue coming into your doors. So now you can make sure that you're incurring a safe place and a secure place for your employees,
right.
That you're not scraping for money just to do business. So contracts really help smaller businesses and micro businesses to become bigger businesses, because now your income or your revenue streams are guaranteed for a time
So
time frame.
they can sustain themselves. They can hire people. They can add to the tax base. They can add to the economy. And that's why having Proposition 16 is so crucial, because it helps to build that small business. As we all know that small and minority businesses are the biggest employers of employees. The bigger
Right.
businesses, they really don't, because they can easily get those high priced consultants for wherever, overseas or wherever. So they don't help
Mm-hmm.
to build that economy. Because one thing I just learned, and maybe our next guest, Mr. Francisco, can tell us a little bit about this. But one thing I found out recently is that the president and his men, what they do, this $1.3 trillion tax cut that they just got,
Mm-hmm.
instead of them reporting their revenues as earnings, they report it as investments. So when they
Mm.
report it as investment, the tax rate on that is much lower than if they reported it as revenues. So
Wow.
small business and minority business, we don't have that kind of leverage. We
Mm-mm.
don't have, we're not exposed to that. Our revenues are reported as revenues, so we get
Right.
jacked. If you're a sole proprietor, you get jacked 33%. If you're a limited liability a single owner limited liability company, you get jacked another 30%. You see what I mean? So you
Right.
don't get those privileges. So our next guest hopefully can shine some light on that for us.
Right, because they also, and it's so interesting because that's part of how they do business, right?
Yeah,
But then let us move into that space. Yeah, I spoke on this last week. The billionaire Robert Smith. They're coming after him. He's a billionaire.
yeah,
He's the gentleman that paid off. In 2019, I think it was 2019, he paid off all of the graduating students' student loans.
yeah,
But he's been talking about reparations.
yeah,
And so all of a sudden now they're coming after him for what they call his offshore investments, and
yeah,
that he's not paying taxes and he's not letting them know. But that's part of the game
yeah,
for the dominant society.
yeah,
And Gilbert, this week I read a book. I'm reading a book on financial literacy, and I was just and they were talking about the aftermath of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, and the effort that went in after they destroyed the town, the
yeah.
effort they went into to prevent the town from being rebuilt,
All
to
right,
putting barriers in to keep that from happening. And the
right.
same thing happens to us from a financial standpoint. On Thursday of next week, we have the young lady that wrote the book, The Color of Money, and she's going to talk about all of these barriers that
Yeah,
have been put in place to keep us from achieving that economic empowerment.
right,
It just blows my mind,
right.
the efforts that go into that. It just and every time you think you know what the rules of the game or the rules of engagement is,
Yeah.
they change.
Well, I think what we should learn as people, minority people, what we should learn is that this country was founded on that group enslaving us and having us work for them for free. It's all about having that commodity that they can make as much money as possible on and pay as little. It's like you make as much money as possible, but you want to limit your liability as much as possible. And
Right.
that's what they're doing. So for them to continue this process is to continue that kind of machinery. So that's why Tulsa, Oklahoma was so much a threat to them, because they couldn't control that process. So the blacks were self sufficient. They were doing their own thing. They weren't dependent on them. So that's why they figure, hey, we're going to use our systematic racist approach here, and we're going to burn this thing down. We're going to shut them down. We're going to kill them because we know the government is on our side. And that's really what happened. And ever since Tulsa, you still have that stuff going on, because when you look at minority groups who have developed themselves and become self-sufficient, there's always that group on the other side who's trying to shut them down, just like they're trying to shut down Robert Smith.
Yes. Yeah. So true, Gilbert. So true. I just sometimes, it's just overwhelming. The amount of effort that goes into just creating the stoppage. It's like, really, y'all don't have anything better to do?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You have
They
nothing
want
better to do.
they want to control everything. That's what it is. It's like
Yeah.
they control the operation, the productivity, the trends. They want to control everything. It doesn't work that way because there's so many different ethnicities living here in this society. So each one of us, we've got different things that appeal to us, different things that are important to us, different cultural requirement, but they
Hmm.
think that they should put that square peg in a round hole. That's what they're trying to do.
Right. It's just amazing to me. So you, everyone that is listening, you are tuned into the Business Zone with Crystal.
And Gilbert Buchanan, your small business paramedic. And you guys don't miss this show. This show is on every Friday from 3 to 4. And you can also view it on Facebook and on YouTube. And Crystal, you want to tell them about the subscription levels?
Yes, and we would love for you to go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to us. We're reaching, well, we actually came out of October. Now we're in September. Look, guys, scramble your little bottom over to our YouTube channel, The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, and just hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a dime. You're getting all this amazing free knowledge every week, and you can go back and watch our archives and take information and put it to practical use right then and there. So for that, all we ask is you go over and hit the subscribe button and then hit the notification so you'll be reminded that every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock. The Business Zone is here to provide you with amazing guests with a fantastic information that will help move us that much closer to economic empowerment. So that's all we're asking, not asking a whole lot.
And if you feel, audience, if you feel like this show is not beneficial at all to you, just send us a text and a message in our message box. Say, hey, this is not for me. I don't care about it. It does nothing for me. Right? Just say that so at least we know. But you want to support shows like these because we're not charging you guys for the knowledge and information we're disseminating to you. We're doing this because we recognize that we need to join forces to try to eradicate that systematic racism that occur against black and brown people. But in order for this to be eradicated or suppressed, we got to come together. The other side is coming together. They're doing their systematic approach. If you look at everything, healthcare, look at the economy, look at housing, look at the schooling, everything you can think of, they have systematic racism to suppress us. So we need to join forces and start becoming self-sufficient.
I absolutely agree. Hello, Veronica. Welcome to the Business Zone. Veronica is checked in, and she left us a comment and said they changed the rules. Spot on. That they do.
Thank you, Veronica.
Today we are. COVID has affected a great deal of our lives. It has affected how we operate and maneuver through socialization, how we work. So many people are working from home. Obviously, Zoom and technology has become the number one things for us to how we communicate with each other. But also there are other things that are being affected. Obviously, the individuals that have lost their jobs, but people have assets. People have homes and cars and bank accounts and things like that. So today we want to talk about. Hello, Jasmine. Today we want to talk about how do you protect that? What do you need to do to make sure when we get on the other side of coronavirus, which we are going to get on the other side. I don't know when that's going to happen. Probably not before 2020, but when we do get to the other side, we don't want to have to start all over from scratch. So Alfred said, hello, Gilbert, Alfred Foster.
Hey, Mr. Foster, how you doing, sir?
So today we have Mr. Rupert Francisco. He's going to come on and talk to us about, and I'm going to bring him in right now, and he's going to talk to us about how we protect those assets and what needs to be in place. Welcome. Rupert, Mr. Francisco, how are you?
I am well. I'm well, Crystal and Gilbert. Thank you for
Well,
having me on today.
welcome to the Business Zone, sir.
Yes, we are so happy to have you here. So you are our guru in protecting the assets, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been doing asset protection as a standalone business for 25 years.
And if you don't mind, Mr. Francisco, can you tell the audience a little bit about you? Because we need them to understand that you're more than qualified to speak on this subject. You're an attorney and you're a prominent, successful businessman as well. So if you can tell them a little bit about your bio.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I landed in California from New York. I, my first 2 years of undergraduate study was at the University of Hartford in Connecticut. Took a year off after my sophomore year, and you know the old story. Everybody says, "Go west, young man." So I left New York and I came to California. I came to LA for a weekend.
A
That
weekend.
weekend turned into the rest of my life.
That was a hell of a weekend.
Yeah. So when you leave New York in February and there's 6 inches of snow on the ground
Yeah.
and you land in LA, your jaw drops because it's February and people are walking around in shorts and
In
t-shirts.
shorts.
It wasn't a very difficult decision to make. It took all of about 2 seconds, right?
Did you call home and tell everybody throw everything out? You starting all over?
Pretty much. After about 30 days, I called and I said, I was a very young man. I called my mother. I said, "Ma, send my stuff."
I'm not coming back.
That
I'm gonna come back and pack up.
was it. That was it. So I finished up my undergraduate studies at UC Riverside. I did my last 2 years of undergraduate studies there. In my last year as an undergrad, I was an intern in Lieutenant Governor Mervyn Dimley's office. And while I was there, I authored the first seminal study that predicted that California was going to be a predominantly minority population in the future. And that turned out to be correct, of course. Now, I can't take credit for that because at 20 or 21, I wasn't thinking about those kinds of things. It was Lieutenant Governor Dimley that thought about that, and he just assigned me the task of writing the study. After I graduated from UC Riverside, I was a California State Assembly fellow. So I worked in the legislature for a year. I worked for the Assembly Criminal Justice Committee. Thereafter, I attended UCLA Law School, did my 3 years there, took the bar, practiced law for about 6 years. Now, my first job out of law school was teaching business law at LA Trade Tech. My first job out of law school. So I did that for about a year, then I practiced. Transitioned out of practicing because I discovered that I'm more of a businessman. What I like to do is business. And in the past 38 years or so, that's what I've been doing. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have a number of businesses now. And of course, over all that time, I've had many businesses which didn't work out. Right.
That's a life of an entrepreneur right there.
That's right. So you go through the process. You try this, you try that. Some things work, some don't. And the ones that stick, that's what you stay with. So in terms of my primary expertise, it's asset protection. And our company, JE Holdings LLC, has been in business doing asset protection for 25 years. Now, I've actually been doing asset protection before that, but as a standalone business, we were the first, and as far as I knew, still the only black asset protection company in the country.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
what made you choose asset protection?
Very interesting question. Because they don't teach asset protection in law school.
Mm.
At least they didn't back then. I don't know if they do now. And the reason, of course, that they don't makes a lot of sense. Because when you go to law school, what they teach you is you sue people and then you get money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in asset protection, what you learn is someone can sue you and they can get a judgment for $1 billion, but they can't collect anything. So if you're in law school and they tell you this, you're like, oh, whoa, maybe I should have gone to med school. There's no reason for me to be here if I'm going to sue people and can't get money. That
can't
makes
collect.
no sense. So that's why they don't teach it in law school.
Oh.
And I'm thinking that the what you're doing with asset protection is so much fitting for what we're talking about here today, because as we know, as minority groups, when we build up our assets, all of a sudden they come up with rules to suppress us and take it away from us. So by you doing asset protection, it really helps us a lot.
Sure. Listen, if you have anything, you need to protect it for a number of reasons. There, you've heard over the years the stories about the famous recording artist or the famous movie star that got into trouble with the IRS. Now the IRS is seizing the house, seizing the bank account, and seizing whatever other assets they have.
Yeah.
Things like that don't need to happen. The reason that
Right.
those things happen is because people keep assets in their own personal names. Now, in asset protection, so by the way, let me just tell the audience what asset protection is. Asset protection, very simply, is like insurance against lawsuit judgments. Okay, so someone can sue you, they can get a judgment for $10 trillion if they want. It doesn't matter because they can't collect a penny. That's what asset protection is. But it doesn't.
So is it how exactly does that work?
Okay, so the way it works is this. In asset protection, we have a saying: we want you to own nothing but control everything. And the reason for that is this: if you own nothing, no one can. People can't take anything from you, right? Okay. So the way you go about owning nothing is to have title to assets in different kinds of entities or different kinds of structures. We don't want anything in your own name. So let's talk about property, for example. You should never have your house or any property in your own name. And the reason is this: first of all, from a liability standpoint, if something happens on that property, especially, for example, if you have rental property, rental property is amongst the highest risk endeavors in that we know. And the reason is because as a landlord, you're not on the property, so you don't know what's going on there. There's a lot of risky activity that goes on those properties all the time. So even though you have no control over what happens there, you're 100% liable for whatever damages are caused by those tenants, whether it's accidentally or a crime. You're liable. So if you have that rental property in your name, and there's someone slips and falls and breaks their neck, if there's a shooting on that property, you're liable. And
So, Mr. Francisco, tell us and the audience, what are the first 3 steps that someone needs to take in order to protect their assets?
Okay, so it depends on what kind of asset it is. So we have different structures to protect different kinds of assets. Real estate is one thing. Bank accounts is one thing. Your company is another thing. So let me just finish talking about real estate. Okay. So you should never have real estate in your name. So ideally, what you want to do is you want to have you want to have title to your real estate held by either an LLC or a different kind of trust. There are different kinds of trusts that we generate to hold property. The reason this is important is because now, if someone sues you, they get a judgment against you, your house is safe. Or if you have problems with the IRS, and they try to slap a lien against your house, well, good luck with that, because you don't own the house, right? The LLC owns the house, or the trust owns the house. So now you get to save your house. Lots of times people get sued. There's a judgment against them, and the person that won slaps a lien against the house. So what happens? Now you're not free to do what you want with that property, because whatever you do, you're going to have to satisfy that lien first. If the property was never in your name, if it was held by an LLC or by a qualified personal interest trust, that person that got that judgment against you could not hold up the sale of your property or prevent you from doing whatever you wanted with that property, because it's not owned by you personally.
So if the person has a mortgage on the property, the person has a mortgage, right? Now, will the mortgage holder allow you to transfer the name from the ownership from you to the trust company?
Absolutely. It's a transaction that's done every day. Every day. Your mortgage company doesn't care who has title to that property. All they care about is that they get that mortgage every month. And it's not something that they can stop anyway. Okay. So you're free to transfer that property to an LLC, to a qualified personal resident trust, or one of the vehicles that we use today that we're popularizing is the land trust. Now, what the land trust is, it's a kind of trust that's just for property, and one of its purposes is to obfuscate the ownership of the property. So once we take the property out of your name and put it in the land trust, if someone is trying to find out if you own that property, they can't, because if they go to the county recorder and they're trying to find your name in association with that property, they won't. All they'll find is the name of the land trust.
So without taking money out of your pocket, how does one go about protecting their property, and what are the costs? How much does it cost to do that, to protect your property?
Okay, so listen, I see my task here as to empower people with knowledge.
Right.
Often in life, it's the things that you don't know that will hurt you. So I don't have a profit motive here. I just want to give people information so they can protect themselves. Okay, so typically, if you want a structure that involves a land trust and an LLC, and by the way, this gets a little complicated, so we won't go into all the ins and outs. But something like that will probably run you about $5,000. But consider this: if your property is worth $2 million, $5 million, or even $250,000, why wouldn't you spend $5,000 to make sure that no one can ever take it away from you?
I hear you.
That's for sure. There is Alfred asked a question. Can you explain how, and this affects our community a lot, because a lot of times we have a property, a home that is owned by our parents, and they get sick, and then we have to come in to caregive for them, and they don't have everything in place, right? And the parents' name is on the property still, and now there are no resources for them to go to in order to help. So someone wants to have, how does an irrevocable living trust work as it applies to family inheritance?
Okay, so you're talking about estate planning now. So we switched subjects from asset protection to estate planning. So the question involves making sure that whatever assets the elderly patient has, the elderly family member has, isn't eaten away if they have to go into a facility.
Right.
Because ordinarily what happens is if you have assets, they're gonna use your assets to apply to the cost of your care. So there are a number of strategies, including an irrevocable living trust. That's one of the structures that can be used to prevent the family assets from being used to pay for the long-term care of the elderly patients. There are other strategies that can be used, but that's one of them.
Okay. Yeah, because that does happen a lot. So basically, the wealthy, though, use the asset protection as one of their tools and strategies to protect themselves. So, and we know that the man in the White House has some 26 or 30 or 40 or 50 lawsuits right at the present moment. So I assume, that is just a regular tool that is used amongst the wealthy.
Absolutely, and it's been that way for hundreds of years. And that's how they keep their wealth, and that's how it keeps growing. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, so when it comes to asset protection, what we do, if the assets are not going to be held by you personally, so who owns them, who holds them? So we put title to assets in different structures. So typically we're going to start off with that's your basic corporate entity, okay? Now, there are all different kinds of corporate entities, and depending on what state you establish them in, there are different kinds of protections for different entities offered by the different states, which is why when you're incorporating, the process of incorporating is a very important legal procedure that you should not trust to LegalZoom or your accountant who wants to charge you $200 to set up an entity for you. It doesn't work because they're known as filing services, which means all they do is register a name for you with the Secretary of State. That is not being incorporated. To really fully be incorporated and to be protected in case you ever get sued, there are a number of different steps and a number of different documents that have to be prepared in order for you to be fully incorporated. These are called corporate formalities. And it takes about 4 hours after you get a name registered with the state to prepare all of these documents that we put in something that's called a kit. So LegalZoom is not going to do that for you because they can't do that for $200. Okay, so if you go to a regular law firm, they'll cost you anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500, depending on what state you're in. Here's the other consideration: deciding what state to incorporate in is a very, very important step because different states give you different levels of protection. Different states have different tax consequences, for example. So California is one of the worst states to be incorporated in. So you never want to be incorporated in California. Yet, whenever you go to one of these lawyers or law firms, the first thing that they want to do is incorporate you in California. That's because that's all they know. They don't know any better. That turns out to be a bad thing for you. Okay?
Really? Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's why individuals, savvy individuals, are incorporated in Nevada and as well as Delaware.
Okay.
Are there other states that you can establish your corporation?
Absolutely. You can establish your corporation in any state. This is the full faith and credit clause of the U.S. Constitution, which is what allows you to drive in New Jersey on a California license and so on. Okay, so you could be incorporated in any state and do business in any other state.
So,
Wow.
the advantage of incorporating in those states is that the protection that you get, right? But they still have to pay the California taxes, right, on the business because they're considered a foreign corporation, right?
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. There are lots of considerations go into that. if you establish your entity in another state, and so there are certain requirements that you must, once you establish your entity, you must have these things in that other state to be able to avoid California taxes. Okay, one of them is a phone number. One of them is an address. So if you have these things and a few others in another state, you can still do business here and not subject yourself to California taxes.
Okay.
The other reason why you want to incorporate in other states is for officer protection or the protection of shareholders or members if you're an LLC. Lots of states offer you more protection than California. The other reason you want to go to other states is for taxation. Some states have no corporation taxes, unlike California, which has 10% corporate tax rate, right? Some states have no personal taxes. So really, that's where you want to be. Okay.
Good.
So
This
as you
is
can
very
see,
good to know.
there are lots of considerations that go into simply establishing where you're going to set up your entity. Now, Crystal, you brought up the issue of Nevada. Okay? Traditionally, like maybe prior to like 15 years ago, we probably set up thousands of companies in Nevada. But over the years, the Nevada laws have changed. So Nevada went from first to worst.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So anybody that talks to you about setting up an entity in Nevada just doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't know what they're talking about. They'll hurt. Nevada now has corporations taxes. It didn't before.
Yeah.
Previously, you can have the utmost in anonymity in Nevada because you had to provide very little information. That's not true anymore. Now, if you're incorporated in Nevada, you have to every year or 2 years you have to file a Nevada state business license, which costs $250, by the way.
Yeah.
Just the business license by itself, not to mention the annual fees that you have to pay there. And in this Nevada state business license, you have to list names, addresses, social security numbers of anyone that has a beneficial interest in that entity. There are many other states that don't require this. In addition to the fact that now they're they're taxing businesses in Nevada. So Nevada is no longer the place to be. Delaware is not the place to be if you are a new entity. Okay. Wyoming is one of the best places to be if you're a new entity. Alaska, if you have if you're doing something that has a lot of liability, Alaska is where you want to be. So for example, all the oil companies who operate these big oil tankers, they're all incorporated in Alaska. And the reason for that is Alaska gives anybody that's incorporated there a special kind of protection where they don't allow what is known as foreclosure of a charging order. That means if you have an LLC and someone gets a judgment against your LLC. So in California, if you have an LLC, someone gets a judgment against you, they can go into court and ask the court to allow them to collect against your LLC. And many times the court allows that. In Alaska, there's no such procedure. So that person won't be able to collect.
That's
Okay?
very good. That's very good to know.
Excellent.
Very good to know.
So for a startup or a new business, Wyoming is a better state to incorporate in.
Yes, but it all depends on what you want to do. So for example, if one of your goals is business credit, Wyoming is a good state because even though they don't require a whole lot of information for your personal information to be attached, there is enough information there so that when a potential financier goes to look you up to decide to establish that is your business, in making an underwriting decision about funding you, they will be able to tell that that is your business in Wyoming. There are other states where you can go, and if you want complete anonymity, that's better than Wyoming.
And I also would like to add this because it would behoove me not to mention this as a certification specialist. When a small business is trying to become certified, whether it's DBE, MBE, or SPE, those types of things are important for them to know. So if they're registered in Wyoming or Nevada or wherever, that may be good because they may be getting some tax incentive from some of those states. But when it comes to certifications, they will need to file foreign statement of
Absolutely.
qualification as foreign
Absolutely.
corporation. So they need to file that. Many of them don't know that. So that's one thing they need to do. And when they file that in the state of California, they also want to know through the Secretary of State what type of other ramification is associated with that. So if they're trying to get certified, they need to understand that process. If they're not doing certification and they just want to get the tax benefit from another state, then that's fine. That's fine.
Right. So actually, if you're doing certification, you might as well just be incorporated here. It
Yeah.
just makes it cleaner and easier for you.
Yeah.
So again, what your goals are has to be is a calculus that has to be taken into consideration in
Yeah.
establishing what the venue is, including, by the way, what kind of business that you want to be in. So
Exactly.
if you're going to be in the entertainment business, we go to other states.
Yeah.
There are other states that if you're going to be making motion pictures and television, there are other states that we go to. So all of these things are calculuses that have to be taken into effect, that have to be assessed. And the guy at LegalZoom that gets $20 an hour,
Yeah.
he doesn't know this. He can't do this.
Yeah. He's just going through the process, doing what he's supposed to do.
Right.
So
So
the best thing is to make sure that so basically what you're saying, Rupert, is that they really need to have a conversation with an attorney to make sure, based upon whatever their goals are and their
right.
needs are, that they're getting the best advice, because down the line, I can see that becoming a problem, especially if you're in a high risk business.
Yeah.
And hindsight is something else if you could have just known that up front, right?
Right.
Not only an attorney, the right kind of attorney. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. The right kind.
Right.
Exactly. The right kind of attorney.
Right. Same thing with a doctor. If you need brain surgery, you can't go to a foot doctor.
Yeah. then you'll be walking on your head, right?
Exactly. So if a guy tells you he's an attorney, that doesn't mean anything. You have to find out what he does.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we've got about 8 minutes left in the program, Rupert. So do you want to go ahead and tell the audience how to get a hold of you, your phone number, email, website, that type of thing?
So we're very easy to find. Our company is called JE Holdings. By the way, it's LLC. So we're JE Holdings.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No problem. It's JE Holdings LLC. We have a website. Just Google. You can Google my name. All of our companies come
How
up.
do you get to the website? Do you do jeholdings.com?
No, very simple. THEJEH.com.
Oh, okay. That's good. I like that.
Very simple. So there's one other point that I need to make that's very important.
Mhm.
So when it comes to setting up a corporate entity,
Mhm.
that's a good thing, because if you're in business, you need to operate under the auspices of a corporate entity to avoid liability for your personal assets, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great thing. However, 95% of the people who incorporate have a problem that they don't even know about. And
Right.
here's what it is. Whether you're set up as an LLC, which means you have memberships, or a C Corp, which means you have stock certificates, people keep those membership certificate or those stock certificates. They have them in their own personal names. That's bad, because now you've converted a business asset into a personal asset, and now your company is subject to seizure, because The evidence of ownership of an entity is those stock certificates or those membership certificates. So if you get in a huge auto accident, which, by the way, any of us, every day that we drive, there's a possibility that we'll get into a catastrophic auto accident. And if we're at fault, no one has enough insurance to cover all the damages they can cause, right?
Right.
So today we see damages easily in excess of 10 million, 5 million, 15 million, $20 million. If you're in an auto accident and you have $1 million worth of coverage, but you've caused $5 million worth of damages, that person you now owe that person $4 million. So they can take anything that has your name on it. Your stock certificate, your membership certificate is subject to seizure, and now you've just lost your business. Okay. So the way to prevent that is to not have the stock certificate or the membership certificate in your name. Remember, I said we want you to own nothing, but control everything. So there's an entity called a family limited partnership. And the purpose of the family limited partnership is to hold title to assets. So that your stock certificate, let's say you're a husband and wife, for your company, husband would own 1%, wife would own 1%, and 98% of the stock certificates would be held by your family limited partnership. Same thing if you're an LLC, 1% to the wife, 1% to the husband, 98% of the membership interest will be held by the family limited partnership. Now, that same accident can happen and you get to keep your company. Okay. So if you have any kind of corporate entity, you cannot hold a stock certificate or the membership certificate in your own name, because that means you're subject and liable to lose your company. You have It has to be held by another entity, preferably the family limited partnership. But that's kind of an expensive thing. But we have a workaround for that that's less expensive, but will give you almost the same kind of protection.
Fantastic. And I know we just got a few more minutes, but what are some of the things that people that's been affected with COVID, since this came up out of nowhere in their family? Things are happening. Businesses are being lost. I'm sure people are being sued, all kinds of things.
Absolutely. All the creditors are calling now, because all the people that extended loans, now they're calling them in. So as soon as the courts open up, these people are going to be getting sued. The same thing happened in 2007, 2008, when the real estate market collapsed. And that's why so many people that had all that money that they made from real estate, they lost it all because they didn't have asset protection. You have to put asset protection in place. It's like insurance, right? It doesn't do you any good after the triggering event happens. You have to do it before the catastrophe hits.
Wow. And so right now, those that have not done that, is there anything that they can do right where they are? Let's say the creditors haven't called as of yet, but if we go on to December, they could be calling.
Right. And even if the creditors have called, there's some things we can do to help them. Absolutely. Even if they're being sued right now, there's things we can do to help them. Now, it's better, of course, if you do all of this ahead of time, right? But we can help. Even if the creditor is knocking on the door right now.
That's very good to know. Very good to know. Mr. Francisco, it's been such a pleasure having you on this show.
I know. These are the scary stuff that one has to talk about, right?
the things that make us cringe and go, oh no.
That's right.
But we have to talk about it. So we want to thank you so much for coming on the Business Zone and sharing your time and knowledge with Crystal and I and our audience. And we'd love to have you back again. So just let us know when you can come back.
It's been my pleasure. This is the second time, 3 times a charm.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna work out something to talk about that Forex stuff, and because I think, as we say, what far as we are as Black people, what we don't know, just what we don't know. It will
will
kill us.
hurt
So
us.
the more information that we can disseminate, and that's just where we happen to be right now, is being able to just be thirsty for as much information to help us understand and to better protect ourselves. Someone said, "Oh, no wonder they couldn't get all of OJ's money."
The reason they couldn't get OJ money is because Mr. Rupert Francisco is helping to protect him.
That's me. I'm not that.
or someone like him.
Hey,
So,
and even if it was, I wouldn't claim it.
we know you wouldn't. It's okay. We understand.
so we're at the top of the hour, and we want to thank Mr. Francisco for being here today. We're certainly going to bring him back. Hopefully, we can bring him back within 30 days so he can help us some more. But Crystal, do you have any announcements you want to make?
Yes,
Anything you want to
I
share with the
do.
audience?
I want to share. Actually, this is beneficial for us as well. Next week, you and I are. Thank you, Laurel. She said great information. Thank you, the Business Zone. Next week, Gilbert and I have an exciting opportunity. First of all, on September 12th, which is next Saturday at 9:00 in the morning, there is going to be the Los Angeles Black Business Expo. Now, this expo is the expo that used to be, you attended for 3 days down at the Los Angeles Convention Center. It was hosted by Miss Barbara Lindsay. And so Miss Barbara Lindsay's back, and she is doing a virtual Black Business Expo. There will be over 50 speakers, being one of them being George Frazier and Les Brown, and so many others. There's just a long list of them right there. But it's going to be a virtual event, and we're all excited about it. The tickets are $20. If you're interested, you can go to my Facebook page, and you can click the link there, and it will be up by this afternoon. And also, some of you may have already received a e-blast from me, and there's going to be many more going out between now, probably one going out every day until the expo. But Gilbert and I are excited because they've asked the Business Zone to interview several leaders in the community, and then it's going to air all day at the event. We have a booth there, the Business Zone booth. You will be able to network, reception, hear some amazing speakers. Jewel Diamond Taylor is going to be there, and Les Brown, and who else?
Victor Parker from the SBA will be one of our interviewees.
One of our interviewees, we're going to interview Michael Lawson from the Urban League, and we're going to interview Karen Blackwell. She's going to talk about Prop 16 and how important that is from the supplier diversity in small and businesses. And so it's just going to be if you thought this information that you heard from Mr. Francisco was great, then you want to just pop on over there. $20. That's 2 Big Macs and a French fry. Just eliminate them 2 Big Macs and a French fry and eat a salad that day. Join us. But we're going to have a great time, and we want you all to come out. I'm speaking on, I'm also on that long list of 50 speakers, and I'm speaking on the multiple paths to, or the path to multiple streams of income, because everybody right now needs to have money coming from every aspect, every orifices, every crevice, every river, in order to survive this COVID thing. So we're going to talk about that. So again, go to my Facebook page, go to the Business Zone Facebook page, go to Recycling Black Dollars Facebook page, and you can sign up there. And we would love to see you there. And Gilbert and I are excited because this is a big opportunity. This is going to be seen all over the country. So the Business Zone is going to get people gonna see us all over the country. And
That's
possibly
right.
all over the world, because I think there are some individuals that are going to be tuned in from Africa as well. So, so join us. We would love to have you, and I'm sure Miss Barbara. And I'm just so impressed. You know, this is that time, Gilbert, where people are really rising to the occasion.
That's right.
Virtual expos and summits, and it just gives you a whole new opportunity to reach some people that you may not have had an opportunity to meet. And I've been coaching people all week. Get yourself online, become a digital entrepreneur, and start making some money. And for me, the best part about being a digital entrepreneur, nobody needs to know what color I am. They can't steal my money because they don't know who I
am. and also, I would like to recommend to all of the entrepreneurs, all the small businesses, to make sure you get your capability statement in order. To attend this event, you want to have enough capability statement so you can pass it around to different potential contract providers, different customers, different clients that you may want to do business with. And now remember, when you meet with these folks, whether it's virtual or in person, they're going to meet you for maybe a minute or two. When you leave your capability statement with them, it's with them for a long time, so they can keep reviewing that over and over after you've gone. So keep that in mind. That's something you want to have ready.
All right. Anything going on with you next week? You got classes, or you?
Oh,
I know
yeah.
you're busy.
Oh yeah. So next week we've got a class scheduled with the LA Latino Chamber of Commerce. We have a program called Avanzar, and Avanzar in Spanish means, I'm sure Mr. Francisco knows that. Avanzar in Spanish means advance. Advancement, to advance. So this program is about that, and I've been working with them now for about 4 or 5 weeks, helping the participants become business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready, helping them to build their business model, helping them to build their capability statement, looking at their back office, setting up their infrastructure, using SmallBizPro in ways that they never did before. So this is an amazing program. So this class on Tuesday at 6 o'clock, and it's going to be online through Zoom. We're going to do business personality profile. So we're going to do a personality on you as a business owner. It's called Knowing Your Personnel. So before you hire someone, we're going to do an assessment with you so you can do the same thing with them, so you can understand a little bit about them and about you, what make them click together. So it's going to be great. Very excited about it, Crystal.
Awesome. There you go, guys. This is the time you should be just sucking in all of this information, so that when we come on the other side in 2021, hopefully January or the first quarter of January 2021, you will have so much ammunition and so many tools that you can hit the ground running, like we kind of did in the 2020, but we came to a screeching halt in March. So hopefully we're going to slide on through March next year.
Crystal, before we go, I really want to send my condolences to the family of Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther.
Oh, yes.
The black superhero that we've been, aspiring to and been, praising all these years. Chadwick Boseman has passed away at the age of 43 of colon cancer, which again speaks to the systemic racism that we encounter, because of the way the medical system is set up. A lot of us minorities, we don't want to go and get ourselves checked in advance to find out if we're healthy or if we're okay. And not to say that's what happened with him, but he died very early, very young, and many of us, we may not know that there's stuff going on with our bodies. So we need to go check ourselves, preventive medicine, check ourselves, because we don't want to pass away. We still got a purpose here. So my condolences to him, the Black Panther.
And his family. And I know we're over, but I have to say this. One, Michelle Bell says, Crystal and Gilbert of the BusinessZone, thank you for your passion to empower entrepreneurs and business owners. I appreciate you too. Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate you as well.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for the support.
But one of the things I want to say about Chad Boseman, I have gone back, and as many of us have watched several movies. I mean, he made 7 movies from the time he was diagnosed. He didn't tell a soul, because if he did, he wouldn't have been able to do the movies, because they wouldn't have been able to get insurance.
That's right.
But I just watched him. That takes a lot. That man was ill. I was watching I watched 2 movies this past few days, and he was ill at the time.
Yeah.
And from what I hear, he was still doing his own stunts.
Yeah.
That takes some stuff, and one, my sister was saying there was somebody that was on the set with him, and in one of the movies, I think it was Five Bloods, and his wife says, what was he like? And he goes, well, he's a little precious. He seemed to have his massage therapist there, and he had this person there, and he was meditating, and I'm thinking, he was thinking, wow, maybe the Wakanda movie kind of went to his head, right? But
Yeah.
little did he know, or anybody know,
Yeah.
that was how he was getting through the filming, was
Yeah.
this small
The
nucleus
treatment,
of
the
people
treatment process that he was going through. Yeah.
were taking care of him to make sure. So that in itself says how determined we as Black people can be,
Yeah.
how persistent we can be. We
Resilient.
are superheroes when it
Yes.
comes to, I mean, if you can operate under that kind of pain, because colon cancer is very painful,
Yeah.
and still be able to, and I think one of his last words was, when I'm done, I want to make sure I am all used up and given my fans everything that I had before I leave this planet. And wow, what profound words. And so I'm saying that to everyone is we have to give our all, and we have to give our all together as one unit, working together to make this place a better place for us here on this planet, and not just for us as adults, but for our children. We need to make sure that we're leaving something to our children. We as Black people shouldn't be fearful to walk out the house and fear that you may not come back. But in order to change that, we have to change policy, we have to change law, and we have to make people accountable. And yes, Black lives matter, just like everybody else's lives matter. But right now, we happen to be on the chopping block. So just want that to be known, that we have to, as a people, work together to make this a better planet for us to live on.
Now,
So
Crystal, if you don't mind, Crystal, I just want to throw this in there also because this is very, 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 very important. Now, 2 weeks ago, a very important lady in our lives, Gwen
Yes.
Moore, died. She was with the Black Business Association, but more notably, she was the mother of supplier diversity. What she did, she was the one who spearheaded what they call General Order 156, General Order 156 for utility companies to include minority contractors and vendors in their supply diversity effort. Before that, before General Order 156, they never really give opportunities much to Black and minority businesses in the supply diversity space. Now, Crystal and I were talking earlier, there's about 28 utility companies, electrical, gas, and water, and many of them didn't really care about hiring Black vendors. So with Gwen Moore putting together General Order 156 and it was passed and approved, all of a sudden the utilities changed the way they did business. Now they're including minorities, even though they're not including us to the level that we're supposed to be at. Right now, we're only at like 3.9% of the contracts that they award. So we still need to bring that up some more. We still need to bring it up. So I just want to say my condolences to her and her family as well. And, we got to keep the fight. We got to keep it going.
We got to keep the fight. And she definitely, and I also heard that the reason we have bathroom facilities in supermarkets was because of her. She created a bill for that as well. And then today I was on a webinar with SoCal Gas, and numerous of those individuals that are our representatives over there said they wouldn't have never had that job if it had not been from Gwen. So
Exactly.
Gwen was a quiet force behind the scenes.
Yes.
And when she was as assemblywoman, she did some amazing things. So yes, we've lost a great lady.
Yes.
We've lost a lot of great people in the last year or so. So our heart goes out, but thank you so much, all of them and their families, for lending them to us and making a place better for us. So yeah.
With that said,
we got to tune out. So we want to thank Rupert for being our guest, and we appreciate it. And you're welcome anytime you want to roll on by and stop on by virtually to the Business Zone.
see what Gwen Moore is to supplier diversity. We want you to be that for asset protection for Black people.
There you go. Everybody in their lane doing what they do best. So you are tuned into the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, and we are pleased to have you here. We humbly are pleased to have you as our audience and our followers, and come back next week. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button, increase our subscribers, and hit the bell the notification bell, so that you will get a notification every time we go live. So thank you guys, and we are out until until the Tuesday. We'll be back on Tuesday, and then we'll be back on Friday. So have a great weekend. Be safe this holiday season. Keep your mask on so we can get out of this place of norm.
Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day. And stay cool. It's supposed to be 100 degrees on Sunday.
Woo! I'll stay indoors.
As a small biz pro, I saw we roll, using procurement, program, and control. As a small biz pro, I saw we grow, using procurement, program, and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur.
All righty.